Welcome back to Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersect. We're very glad that you continue to support this podcast. You can get the information on any platform where podcasts are played, as well as getting the video content on YouTube. But if you want to just get one place to find all the content, go to my website at DrDerrick.com, and you will find everything on that website. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Hello, podcast family, and welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor. And it's just me today. I have a message that I've been wanting to share with you actually for the last several months and just really have not gotten around to it. It's very rare that I title an episode before I do it. I usually do the interview or do the episode. I'll listen to it a couple of times and then I'll come up with a title. But today's title is Podcasting for the Busy Professional. And why am I so direct about that is because it's something that I've been doing now for 2.5 years. And not that I know everything, but I've definitely learned a lot of tips and tricks of the trade over the last 2.5 years. So why am I qualified to talk about podcasting for a busy professional? So it's nearly been 2.5 years to the date that we released our first episode, which was Father's Day of 2021. So I want to give you several tips. I usually like to count them, but then by the time it's over with, the count doesn't add up anyway. So we'll count them when we're finished. But I'm just going to give you a couple of tricks and a couple of tips, things that I learned. There's no secrets. There's no tricks, to be honest. So tricks was a bad word because it's work. It's showing up. It's consistency. It's learning. It's being flexible. It's being willing to, learn and grow, to be honest. So first thing I want to talk to you about is don't take yourself too seriously. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to doubt yourself, criticize yourself. There are going to be times along the way where you're going to say, is this even worth it? Who cares what I think? Am I really helping anyone? Am I reaching anyone? Do I truly have an audience that wants to hear my message? But I want to encourage you that you do. And the world needs your voice. The world needs your authenticity. The world needs you to be who you are, because there are many different role models, or there are many different people who are being portrayed in the media who are characters, to be honest, and not real people. So the world needs to hear your voice. They need to hear your story. That's one of the most gratifying things about doing a podcast, as being able to connect with so many different people on this platform and hear their stories, hear their struggles, it's been great to be able to connect with people, to hear their triumph, to hear their struggles, and to just see how each person has a unique road to success, or a unique road to overcoming the odds, or whatever it may be. And each person, we're able to connect in a different way. And I usually leave each episode with something that I didn't know about the world, or, definitely about that person, but something that I can apply to my daily life. So I'm getting value out of interviewing and connecting with people just as much as you are listening to the podcast. But yeah, give yourself some grace. Know that you're not going to always be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. And that's one thing that I feel that people in the podcast realm, especially I've seen people whose shows never really took off, or who would do a few episodes but can't keep up because you want to have a perfect episode, which does not exist. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say, stutter, whatever it may be. That's okay. If they want a perfect product, then they can go to something produced by a professional. But be authentic. Share the message that you have to share. There are going to be episodes probably where the volume's not correct. The video might not be exactly right. Your guest might come on sometimes and not have the proper audio equipment, or be in the perfect background, and you have background noise. Don't worry about it. If it's a good message, share it. It will be fine. The other thing is really just you versus you. So you can look around to other people who have a common title for your podcast, or other people who might be in the same genre, but they are not you. Sometimes I'm recording this podcast in the morning. Sometimes I'm recording this podcast late at night. You do it how you do it. It would be great to have all in-person interviews. It would be great to be able to be in this lavish studio where we record. However, that does not fit my lifestyle as a husband, father, coach, orthopedic surgeon, sports doctor. I'm on the go a lot, especially during this season. This is the perfect season to be talking about podcasting as a busy professional as we wrap up football season, where we've been on the road for the last 3.5 months, usually a different city or a different stadium each week, as well as balancing the role of being a husband, balancing the role of being a father with kids involved in multiple activities, and balancing work at the same time. So sometimes I'm recording in a hotel room, sometimes I'm recording in my office here, sometimes I'm recording in a spare bedroom, wherever, just be committed to getting the job done and not necessarily worrying about having the perfect product. So that the other thing that I was going to say ties into that. You have to be flexible. So these are just some things that I've learned along the way. And some of the value that I've taken from podcasting is that you have to on the be flexible. You can come out and plan. I know some people plan the whole season, or they may batch record multiple episodes. I've never been really good at that, but that is a good tip, especially in a busy season. I always try to get ahead. Sometimes I try to do 4, 5, 6 episodes within a couple of weeks when I know that I'm going into my busy season, which is now. Because truthfully, over the last several weeks, I've not had the energy or the desire to really interview or talk to people or do a solo episode. However, I was already up 6 to 8 episodes on purpose because I know at this time of the year, energy's on, the tank is getting empty. I'm trying to get through football season. I'm trying to stay connected with family, have to show up for work each day. I don't really have the time or energy, mental energy to worry about podcasting. So when you're able to get ahead, get ahead. As I mentioned, some people will batch record. One of my previous guests, Ed Jones, I interviewed him and he was going on to record 5 or 6 episodes that very night for his podcast. Everybody has a different method of doing that. It might be easier if you're doing solo episodes versus interviewing people, but figure out what works for you. But getting ahead during slow seasons is definitely a key to being consistent. We are now on episode 130 plus over 2.5 years, over the last 130 weeks, give or take. So you do the math. We've had one episode each week. And the key to being consistent is just showing up, doing the work, and like I mentioned, getting ahead when you can. And also automate versus and delegate. You have to be able to automate your systems to be able to get guests, schedule guests, to release the episode. Those are all things that you need to learn about, but that needs to be automated. It's impossible to do all of those tasks by yourself. And delegate. The first year, I did everything. The first year, I would find the guest, record the episode, edit the episode, promote the episode, release the episode. And that can be tiring and something that's not able to be sustainable for the long periods of time. So as a professional, for most people that I'm talking to, one of your most valuable assets, if not your most valuable asset, is your time. So being able to find someone that you can work with, having a virtual assistant or having a assistant of some sort, I think is key to being able to remain consistent. And I've been able to do that for the last year and a half. Someone who now thinks like me when it comes to the podcast, someone who's able to give you tips and tricks, someone who is able to keep you up to date, because I don't study podcasting. I don't, read a lot of blogs about what's new and AI and different things of that nature. So hiring someone can keep you up to date on what's going on in the podcast, keep you relevant, and keep your episodes coming out with consistent quality. So I definitely believe in automating and delegating. So hopefully these tips will help. You have to be flexible. We talked about that. I started off this podcast as audio only. I always recorded the video because I wanted to be able to have it to use it for promotion. But now my YouTube page, which I've had for over a year, I have probably 50% viewers on YouTube and 50% of people listening to the audio. So you have to be able to be flexible with how you present your content and poll your audience, ask questions, have them ask you questions. These are all topics that you can use as future podcast topics, and then ask people. One of the main things that the ways that I've been able to grow my community is by asking guests or asking people that I've connected with to recommend other people to me, to introduce me to other people. I've been able to introduce guests to other guests. I've been able to introduce some of the people who help with this podcast to other people who are in their similar realm. And that's very gratifying to me. So building a community allows you to have access to more people, and it allows you to have more meaning behind what you're doing on your podcast. So who knows? I was supposed to do 3 to 5 tips that probably turned out to about 10. But anyway, I wanted to just come on and share some of the things that I've learned from podcasting over the last 2.5 years. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully, if you have the desire to write a book, start a podcast, just do it. Don't wait until a perfect time. Don't wait until you complete the next chapter of your life. Just do it now, because somebody needs you. There's somebody who's waiting on this podcast to be released every Monday morning. And you don't think that until people start to come up and say, I really appreciate what you're doing. It's helping. That last episode you did was great, and you have no clue that they're even listening to you. So believe in yourself, believe that you have a message, and share it with the world. Thank you for being a part of this podcast community, and thank you for continuing to show up. Have a good week.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace. With the sports doctor, keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine